All my life, I've always tried to be as real as possible and to be as present as possible.
How did you come to singing on stage?
I always loved music. I grew up playing the piano. My mom signed me up for piano lessons very early on when I was 7 or 8, growing up in the middle of the civil war in Beirut, Lebanon. And it was a great instinct on her part because it did a lot to preserve me at that time. And I always knew that a lot of answers would come to me through my voice. I was also in some way preparing to become a surgeon. I was very good in biology. I was very passionate about the human body, about anatomy, about all those systems, about the universe. When you grow up in war, you start asking questions very, very early on. I was questioning a lot. And I was almost sure I wanted to be a doctor because with everything going on around me, I thought, what else is there but to save lives? I also was a first responder and a rescue worker, and I worked in hospitals, in the Red Cross. And, as a teenager, it was a great escape at that time. But at the same time, I had been singing, I had been teaching piano, I had been writing, and it became more and more clear to me that music was an answer for me. All of that gave me the courage to just leave one day and just decide I wanted to just live my life as a musician and find my voice and find my way. And in order to do that, I needed to be away from the heaviness of that place.
Was it challenging for you to find your true voice as a singer?
It still is. I think that it is for all of us at all times. It's very humbling being faced with that much fragmentation and that much confusion, but at the same time, it made me very close to everything and everyone. It gave me a glimpse of, what the human condition really is.
How would you describe a voice which is not true?
Just the same that you would describe a being who is not true. It can be very pretty and seemingly convincing and with nothing quite wrong with it that you can pinpoint at, but something just doesn't feel right.
So it's a feeling.
Yeah, I think everything is energy. It's either there or not. It either connects or it doesn't connect. And I think as artists and as vocalists particularly, because we're speaking with our body, we have a great responsibility to be true and to bring that truth, because that truth saves.
Would you say that finding your true voice is a healing process?
Absolutely. For each one of us, we've all come here with a gift. I would see it as like a treasure buried inside of each one of us, and our purpose and our job in this lifetime is to find that and to bring it to the light, bring it to the world. If we leave this planet not having uncovered this gift, it's a waste because nobody else is ever going to come with this very gift. I think life challenges each one of us in ways that point us in the direction of finding that treasure.
For you, the gift is your voice.
Yes, I think my voice is one of the ways that I carry it forward and I bring it to the world. My voice particularly is the more challenging medium for that because it's so intimate and it's so naked and there's nowhere to hide behind it for me.
How did you realize that your voice wasn't true as a singer?
My voice was never not true. It just took a very long time to come out because I was very committed to that truth. So very early on in my process of wanting to sing, I understood and deeply felt the power of my voice and what it did not only to me but to other people and what it carried with it. So I took my time. What I mean is that the voice and any way that we choose to be in the world, we can choose to be with it the way it is, or we could choose not to face. But I think that the artistic expression is a direct manifestation of how far you've gone with yourself. So you can't sing about something you haven't experienced, or you can't paint something you haven't felt. There's a lot of art that is beautiful, but maybe it doesn't move in in particular ways. And even that, I mean, that's also, it's very personal. You know, we all connect with the art that we connect with, that resonates with us. There's no right or wrong. But I was always reluctant to paint a pretty picture when things were not pretty, because I've seen a lot of horror, and I've seen how ugly things can be. And I think bringing beauty through that is a very deep and sacred process. It can't be faked. You can't erase the ugliness or the difficulty. And in my process with my voice, that was very true. You know, my voice never let me pretend. I can't. And this is why it took a long time, because there was so much to work with.
Is it possible for a singer to sing without a true voice?
It's not possible for me. But I think, like anything, you know, the commitment to truth is a very personal choice. Maybe for a singer who has a, you know, very agile instrument and finds a lot of ease singing, that can be a way to just maybe not look at other things, but maybe that's healing for that person. I can't judge it.
Your voice is your instrument. How do you prepare yourself before singing on stage?
I try to find some space for myself so I can, you know, of course, warm up and get my breathing grounded. But also I try to remember why I sing. And I make sure that's the only thing that's really, you know, present in me when I come out on stage. I remember why I'm doing this. I remember what it could do, and that somebody needs it, and it's something that's much bigger than me. And I walk on stage. It's just a way of preparing myself for everything. It's just something I practice very diligently every day in general for every situation, particularly for singing. But I have had to find just a grounding place for myself with everything that I've been through and everything that is happening in the world. So I have practices that kind of ground me and keep me sane. I mean, as a result of the war, I also developed a lot of chronic conditions, including asthma. So for a long time, I couldn't sing because of that. And so I have very difficult phases with that to this day. It's very humbling, but I learned from everything.
How did you learn to develop your breath control?
With great difficulty. It's very hard to do that when you have asthma. I have great mentors, and now I teach it to my students. Practically, it's about teaching your body to and your rib cage to behave in a particular way so that your instrument is aligned and you can make the best use of the air when you sing. There are different methods and approaches and techniques. I've explored different ways of doing that with different schools of thought and different teachers. And then I've come up with my own way that works for me, that I also transmit to my students. So like everything else, I believe, it is a very practical, technical consideration that doesn't mean much if it's not connected to a bigger truth.
Can you tell me more about that?
To me, everything is about purpose and connecting to that, connecting to why we're here, what's our vision of our contribution and our legacy on this planet. You know, I ask myself and my students, why do you want to sing? Why? Why is that important? It's an ongoing questioning, I think, that helps a lot. Stay focused. Once you know why you're doing something, then everything else is just about figuring out how to do it. But if you don't know why, it's much less grounded and there's much less drive, I think. For me, it was very clear that I have something to say with my voice. There were and still is big challenges, but it doesn't matter because I know this is why I'm here.
What kind of experience are you looking for yourself when you're singing on stage?
Magic. I think when you do your part of the work and you make room, it takes a lot of courage to step and trust. But when you're able to do that, something incredible happens when you do the work, but then you know when to let go. And I think singing and particularly improvising has brought that.
Let it go. It's something you have to be aware of.
Yeah, but there are different parts of the brain that are engaged in different parts of the process, and that applies to any instrument or any performance activity. There's time to practice and to drill and to be very focused and to be very analytical, and then on stage it's time to let go of that and engage the moment fully. That doesn't mean that you're not aware of what's going on around you. That doesn't mean you're not listening. As a matter of fact, you're the most focused in those moments, but it's a different kind of focus. And it's not, if you let yourself analyze, then you're making room for all the judgmental voices and the noise to come back in. And in such a sacred moment, in that space, there's no room for that. If you want music or anything to really happen, I mean, athletes and Olympic athletes will say the same thing.
We're talking about voice, but how would you describe what a voice is for you?
Well, I think I know the voice was the first instrument ever. It's the first means of expression between humans. It's something that is a stamp of who you are, whether you like it or not. When you hear that's how a baby recognizes a mother's voice. That's how we learn to be identified in the world very early on. But I think the voice is a great metaphor to me about how everything works in the world. I really believe that everything is just energy fields and frequencies and vibration. And with the voice, it's extremely apparent. And to me, anybody who has taken the time to align with who they truly are and what their purpose is, you can hear it in their voice, but you can feel it in everything that they do. I think a surgeon will perform miraculous surgeries if he's coming from that place. I think we're all artists in that way, and we're all scientists in that way. I don't see a very big difference, actually. Everything is very connected. Everything just wants alignment.
Is it possible to sing in another way? I mean, from a place which is not a place of truth?
I'm somebody who can't do anything that doesn't feel good and doesn't feel safe. I have made this choice in my own life, so I don't sing everything, and I don't sing all the time. It could be that for some singers, it's a lighter process, so they don't feel it like that. The only thing that's wrong for me is anybody doing anything that doesn't feel right and doesn't feel good.
About the right and the wrong, that's what my question is about. What would be a wrong voice? Is it something you can say?
It's not about the voice. It's what can feel heavy is if a singer they're hurting their instrument, or they're singing with stress, or they don't really want to sing but they sing because they think they should, or they really want to sing but they haven't figured out how to do it, and that feels difficult or painful. Any situation that has some kind of emotional unease or physical unease around it, we address. But if a singer is very comfortable with the way they sing, it's then perfect. Then there's nothing. I mean, part of the training is to understand how to do it in a way that is healthy. That's important. But there are a lot of singers who have made a mark in the world and who, didn't sing in the very legitimate, healthy way, and it worked for them.
Your voice is your instrument, but you use it on a daily basis. Do you make a clear line separating your life as a singer and your life as a private person?
Everything I do, understandably, has at the core of it the desire to connect people, to bring cultures together, to bring understanding, to kind of resolve conflict. With the upbringing that I had, it's natural. So that's always the underlying message. I think artists have this incredible capacity of bringing beauty into the very difficult aspects of the human condition.
From their truth.
I don't think there's any other place where that alchemy is possible, but when you are able to sit with what is horrifying and difficult and turn it into something that is understandable, we are not only healing ourselves, but we're bringing understanding to the world. And we're, you know, I tell this to my students all the time, as artists, but in general, more generally as artists or songwriters or painters or writers, we are doing the difficult work of accessing all those difficult places in us and making them beautiful and offering it to the world, and offering it to people who haven't yet figured out ways to access those places in themselves. This is a very sacred, big mission that artists have. This is why it's a very treacherous path. It's not an easy thing to do. As artists, we're called to sit with what is very difficult as a condition to bring out the art and make it accessible for people who maybe don't have those tools yet. And, you know, the definition of trauma is that it's something that is unspeakable. And I think that when artists dive into that which is unspeakable and make it expressible, it's magic. It's what a gift to the world. I think that brings a lot of healing and joy and hope. It's a big job.
Do you like silence?
I love silence. I love silence. I need a lot of silence to balance things. There's a lot that happens in silence. I think silence speaks. And when we don't allow enough quiet in our minds, then we're reacting. We're not really listening for the information that we need to take the next steps.
I'm gonna leave the room. Please hold the microphone and add whatever you want to the interview.
Okay. These are very big questions, and I don't believe there's one right answer for any of them at any given time, but maybe this could be a snapshot of what felt to be true today. Thanks. Done.